so that it can express itself consciously and in an articulated manner. Because without anger, for example, you don't have any power, which basically means that no one needs to be afraid of you. And you might think, well, people shouldn't be afraid of you. And then a Jungian might ask, well, what in the world would ever lead you to believe that? I mean, the distinction between being respected and being feared is not clear. But I would say that you don't respect anyone whom you couldn't imagine fearing if they decided to make that their priority. So, without the capacity for aggression, you're not going to get any respect. That doesn't mean that people have to fear you, but it does mean that you have to incorporate your capacity for aggression enough so that they would fear you if you wanted them to. And if you think about it, that makes a lot more sense from a moral perspective than the argument that you should be nice to everyone. Because if you're nice to everyone because you don't have any choice, because you're weak and ineffectual and harmless, then that's not a virtue. That's just, you just can't do anything else. You're harmless by default. And harmless and virtuous are by no means the same thing. If, by contrast, you're capable of causing all sorts of terrible trouble, and you know it, and you know how, and then you decide not to do it because you can carefully articulate a different route, well, then you have the possibility of virtue. Because without the capacity to sin, so to speak, there's no virtue in not doing it. So, if you're a young man who feels that sleeping around is wrong, but never has the opportunity to do it, then you can hardly attribute that to your virtue. So, a good Jungian would say, well, you're just making a virtue out of a vice. It's just rationalization. It has nothing to do with virtue. Now, if you are attracted to people and you decide that attraction should only manifest itself within certain tight boundaries, and that's a voluntary choice, that's a whole different issue. Now, when Jung claims, for example, that you throw the baby out with the bathwater when you're trying to